Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Faiza and this will be part 2 of the X-Files.
Bismillah. I decided to use this mic this time because I got a lot of comments on Snapchat that I move my hands too much to be using a handheld mic. So here we are. Now it's day 2. Pan comes to pick me up and we did the same routine. He comes to pick me up a block away. I told my mom I was going to some networking event because, remember, I wanted to be a writer. So you have to network. My mom knew that this was very normal. But more importantly, my mom really trusted me, which is a horrible thing to say, that you lied to somebody because you figured that they trusted you and they would believe you. So I said I was going to be very honest here. I'm not going to say things to make myself look better. That's what it was, right? I regret it now, but that was a journey. Okay, lied to my mom, told her I was going to some networking event, and Pan comes to pick me up a block away. Same routine. Go to the car. And I realize he has, again, roses, chocolate, but this time he has like a container filled with Jolly Ranchers, watermelon and apple Jolly Ranchers. I had told him just the day before that I love, like we were talking about Jolly Ranchers, and I was like, yeah, I like them, but I only eat the watermelon and apple kind. That's the only type I like. So he goes, I don't know, Walmart, Target, the gas station, wherever he went to go pick up packs of Jolly Ranchers and pick out the watermelon and apple ones to put into this container to give to me, right? And it was those details, like I'm sure you can imagine, it's those details that always made me feel like, oh my gosh, this guy really likes me. And you can only imagine that, along with the fact that, and I want to make this so abundantly clear, Pan was picking me up from the south side of Chicago, okay? And I'm not talking about like Naperville and Tinley Park and Orland Park and Schaumburg. I'm talking about south side of Chicago. Now, I grew up in a neighborhood where the gang members could easily have come on both sides, stopped it, jumped him, taken his car, anything, okay? And this guy's coming in an area like this, right? Even if he's picking me up a block down, it's still a block down with gang members that could have easily done anything to him, right? And he didn't care. He had no fear about it. He was like, okay, yeah, well, I'm coming to pick you up. Didn't look down at the neighborhood. He didn't look down at me that I didn't come from money. I don't come from a family that had money. In no way, shape, or form did I experience anything that Pan had experienced, that his friends had experienced. I came from the complete opposite upbringing. And that really stuck with me, especially having been raised around, going to school and stuff with Musrabs who all had Masadi. They all had money. Their families were wealthy. And we were not. We did not have money like that. So we were always treated differently because we were the poor kids, right? So having a Musrab that completely accepted me, regardless of the fact that, again, I didn't come from Masadi, it felt very validating. So I can't say enough that Pan felt like my knight in shining armor. We drive to Navy Pier, and on the drive, this is the first time he asked permission to hold my hand. And of course, I'm like, yes, of course, please, take the hand of hands. So we're driving over. He's kissing my hand, complimenting me, telling me how excited he is to be out with me, that he's the luckiest man in the world. And the whole time, guys, I'm just feeling carefree. I'm in the car like, life is great. Like I have no cares in the world, not thinking about anything besides the moment with Pan. One of the most intoxicating things about Pan was his ability to make me feel free. I, like every other Musrab girl, especially at this time, felt like you needed a man to sign your permission slip to go out and live your life, experience life. Yeah, sure, you can do it without any repercussions. No worry about your reputation being lost, nothing. Just go be free. And Pan did that for me. When we get to Navy Pier, Pan admits that he didn't get tickets to anything, but rather he had said that so that he can ensure he was going to see me again. All right. He was very afraid that what had happened on the date would mean that I wouldn't want to see him again. Pay attention to that. He was aware that no woman who truly respected herself would have been seeing him on that second date. And then he says to me, it's just that I've never met a girl like you and I'm not ready to let you go. I don't think I'm ever going to be ready to let you go. Oh my God, I wish I could push myself in that hallway. Because the way that even fell on me, I was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't want to leave me. When you've never experienced that. And at this point, I was feeling like I had a 3-month itch with guys, 3-month itch with the engagement, 3-month itch with Achilles. So I'm like, here's a guy who doesn't seem like he's ever going to want to leave me. And it was amazing. Pan always knew how to take me to Neverland, always. And I was off. We continued walking and made our way to a seafood restaurant. And as we're walking in, the restaurant's full. Beautiful girls. I mean, stunning, stunning, stunning. And all I'm thinking to myself is, oh gosh, especially if you've watched part one. And if you haven't, please go back to part one. All I'm thinking at this moment is, oh, here goes his roving eye. He's going to be looking around at all these different women. But let me tell you, this man's attention was 110% on me. Okay, on me. Even as we're walking side by side, he's looking over, he's paying attention, going back and forth to make sure that I know his eyes are on me. And that was a complete 180 from how I felt the day before and that date. So that again was very comforting. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. That's changed. And he kept holding my hand while we were walking over to the table, when we sat down and were given the menus, when we ordered, when we even got the food. He would still keep going back and forth, holding my hand to let me know that he was there. His desire to continuously be connected to me made me feel more secure. This is probably what I would actually have considered our first date, because the first date was more about talking in the moment, what was happening, and more about our careers. There was no talk about past relationships and what was our goals for the future. What were we looking for in a partner? There was none of that. This is when I learned that Pan had started dating when he was in middle school. Now remember, for a Musrab girl like myself who had lived very sheltered and had, gosh, I would never have dated. I mean, I went to a Muslim school. There was no way that we were going to be dating anyway. But dating was never allowed. So I'm hearing somebody who's like the stories of the guys in the community. They get to go off and date, and they had their first girlfriend when they were in middle school or preschool or whatever. So he was very honest about that he had dated a lot. He was very honest about that. He said, I've dated a lot, but even though I've dated a lot of girls, I've never met anybody that I actually thought I could love until now. And it was the pause. He was really good at this. It was the pause after saying that to let that linger. And of course, sink into me. And that was like, oh my God, this guy loves me? Love? Like, really? I sat a little taller. Then he asked me the question that sadly is very common for Musrab men. And that was, are you a virgin? I'm going to give you guys lessons throughout this. Ladies, if a guy ever asks you if you're a virgin, get up and fucking leave. All right? Say to him, how dare you ask me such a private question that you know as a Muslim man you are not supposed to be asking me. Nobody had told me that at that point. Nobody said that. So what did I do? I answered it. And of course I answered it honestly. Yes, I am. But it was not an answer he was owed. And I didn't know that. So I sat there. Because I didn't think I can get up and leave. The mentality was, if you get up to leave, then you're a whore. You're a sharmuta, as they call it, right? You're a sharmuta. But a virgin, a real virgin, would sit there and answer the question. If she has nothing to hide, right? So I answered it, and I said, yes, I am. I will never forget the look in his face. I'm sorry, sometimes you see, like, my memories don't come to me like just a memory. It's like a movie playing out, and you just, I just remember the glimmer, the excitement. Oh, I have a virgin. Ugh. Right. Oh, gosh. Looking back. Ugh. I'm sorry. I got lost in that for a second. Anyway, I answered, told him the truth, and he was excited about it. He smiled. and he wanted to go for a walk. This would become our routine anyway. Anytime we did, whether it was breakfast, lunch, dinner, always did a walk after. He knew I loved walking. We walk around, of course, enjoying Navy Pier, and we get around to where the Ferris wheel is. And he's like, you want to go on the Ferris wheel? And before I can even answer, he just goes running. I was going to say yes, of course. I just stood there for a moment, and I remember watching the smile, the enthusiasm, the jump as he was running. He was in love, and I was falling as well. I didn't see the bad. I didn't see the comments about a woman's chest. I didn't see the inappropriate questions about virginity. I didn't see any of that. None of that. I had this mentality like, well, sure, he says inappropriate things or he does stupid things, but well, so did Baba. Like, so did my dad. And he said hurtful things to me, and my father and I had a very toxic relationship. I mean, very toxic. And then he left this world before we could ever have a chance to fix that. And so I had this mentality, like, if I'm going to have to judge Pan for what he said and the things he's done and the way he's acted, well, then I'm going to have to look at my dad and do the same. And I wasn't ready to do that. To be angry at Pan meant that I would have had to have been angry at my dad. And I was just not ready to do that. So he extends his hand, and I accepted. We go off on the Ferris wheel. And it stayed up there a lot longer than it should have. Like, I had been on the Ferris wheel before. It never stayed up there that long. I later found out it was because Pan had actually paid the guy to keep us up there a little bit longer. And so we're up there and just enjoying the view. And let me tell you, the skyline, the sunset at that moment, the way the sky looked, the breeze, the man at that point, I felt like, what a perfect moment. I'm a writer. I couldn't write it better. Like, what a perfect moment. And it was then that we shared our first kiss. Beautiful moment, wrong man. So we're up there for a little bit longer. And then Pan turns to me and says, let's get a room. I was floored. Oh, I was floored. Like, did he just ask me to get a hotel room? Like, who does he think I am? What kind of girl does he think I am? This is everything I'm thinking at this moment. Pan can read all that. And then Pan says, don't worry, we'll get separate beds or separate rooms, whatever one you want. We'll get separate beds, separate rooms, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm just not ready to have a curfew. Okay, I want to be out with you without a curfew. And for whatever reason, that line, like no curfew, turned everything off. All logic went away. And there was stupid old me sitting on this Ferris wheel thinking to myself, like, wow, oh, I've never been out without a curfew. I don't know what that's like. And it all seems so exciting. And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to be out? No curfew, with a guy I like, and just have fun. That sounds amazing. And then again, logic kicked in and was like, are you really gonna go to a hotel with this guy? Like, don't you know what's gonna happen if you two are alone? And you've never done this before, girlfriend. You really want to put yourself in that type of position? I still remember logic being so clear. Speaking, I mean, there was no like cuts in the sentences or any room for misunderstanding whatever that intuition was telling me. It was very clear. It was very clear. I hated myself for the longest time for what happened next. I text my mom and lied again. Some very stupid lie, because there was no networking event that was going to get you a hotel and let you stay overnight because they really saw your potential. But my mom trusted me. My mom would have believed anything I said. And that's a horrible thing to say. And I hated myself. And I got a lot of karma for this for years. But I knew that my mom, that she trusted me, because she knew I was the good girl who never did anything, who never went anywhere, who had many opportunities where I could break the rules, but I never had. So she trusted me. She's like, oh, if Faiza's saying that she's getting a hotel and this is happening, I trust that. Ugh, was not even worth lying to my mom about at all. But here we are. So we get off the Ferris wheel, go back to the car, and head over to Walmart to pick up some overnight stuff, like pajamas and toothbrushes, snacks, etc. And Then we drive over to the hotel. He parks the car and then he tells me he's going to go in to check in to make sure that there's no Musrab. The guy does that because you might see somebody who knows you, and why are you checking into a hotel unless you guys are married? He knew the drill. This was very second nature to Pan. I was learning it as I was going along. Even though I had girls at this time messaging me and sending me their stories and asking me for advice through my website about their experiences with guys like this, I had not experienced it. And listening to people's stories is very different from actually experiencing it yourself. So he goes in to do that, and I'm waiting in the car. How do I explain to you? I know somebody's going to leave a comment like, you're a writer, you should be able to come up with a way to explain this. How do I explain what I was feeling at that moment as I sat there in that car? I sat there with the ghost of my dead father, like fucking Hamlet, haunted by this spirit that was looking at me with so much shame, like, what are you doing? Like, really? I leave this planet and this is what you become? I'm sitting in that car, you guys, with so much guilt, with so much shame. And that voice yelling, leave, leave, get out. Ugh. But I didn't know who I could call. Where could I go? Who could I tell to come pick me up? Who could I call? I couldn't call my family. I had no friends I could trust. I couldn't just jump into my car and leave. I didn't even have my license at this time. So who could I call? And even though some people will say, well, you did. You could have just called them and faced the chaos of what was going to happen. Sure. If I was who I am today. But then I wasn't like that. And then Pan came walking out and I can see him as he was making his way to the car. And again, the smile and the charm and the excitement. And all those other things, they just disappeared. As if it never even existed, as if it wasn't even a thought. We go straight to the elevator, right upstairs, and to the suite. It was just like, oh wow, right? And Pan knew how to put a good foot forward. Looking back, it's so hard to see how pathetic I was. And I know that, again, I've lived, I've learned, I've grown. And I didn't know any better at this time, so I can forgive myself easier. It took me a while, but I ended up forgiving myself. But it's hard to look back and see how pathetic and desperate I was at this time. Very, very hard. It's just like such a sharp contrast to who I am today. So it's always an adjustment to look back and remember, how pathetic I was. Anyway, so we're in the room going all around looking at everything, and Pan is insistent that I take the bed, which had like double doors, and there were several couches. So he's like, I'll sleep on the couch, you take the bed. And that made me feel very comfortable because I'm like, oh, okay, see, nothing's going to happen here. And he's going to respect that there's a boundary. Done. We didn't stay in the suite for too long. We actually grabbed our snacks and went straight up to the roof and hung out to look at the stars and to talk some more. I was going into talking about the constellations and their correlation to the classics. I was very nerdy. I was explaining all of the classical connection to the stars. And there's Pan talking about us, about all the different places we were going to go, all the different things we were going to see, all the different types of food we were going to try. And everything was we, us. He was already putting us locked in together. And oh boy, that felt nice. We get back to the room. It's 3 a.m. at this point. I still remember looking at the clock and being like, I've never stayed up at this time. Like it was fun. But because we had been out there for so long, we smelled like street, right? Like, it smelled like people who had been standing outside for a long time. So he's like, let's shower and get ourselves ready for bed. Nothing prepares a Muslim girl who has never done something like this before to be alone in the room with a guy that's, even though the door's locked, that's on the other end, all right, in the same vicinity, while you are inside the bathroom showering. Nothing prepares you. Nothing prepared me. I was terrified. I'm in that shower. I still remember I got into the bathroom, locked the door. Then I went and put the garbage can in front there, put some towels there, was covering all the corners I possibly could think of in any way I possibly can. I was wetting tissue and putting them in the little Guys, it was a mission. it was so funny. Like, I went the extra mile. And as if that wasn't enough, I'm in the shower, but I'm staring at the door. So I'm like, I'm in the shower watching to see if at any point he was like gonna pop me like, hey, you know? And so I'm just like staring at it as I'm getting through that shower. That shower could not go faster. It felt just so wrong. For a Muslim girl like myself that was raised with very traditional values, it was wrong. It just felt, the whole thing was wrong. Being in the hotel room, being in the other room naked, showering, all of that just felt wrong. And so I got in, I got out. Afterwards, I changed into the clothes that he had bought me from Walmart, and then get out. He can go in the shower. I end up going to the room, closing the doors. And then once again, I'm in that room, hear the shower go off. He started showering, and although I was alone, I didn't feel alone. I felt again like that Hamlet moment where the father comes in and the ghost is there like, Hamlet, I am your father's spirit. Like my dad came in, Allah yarhamu, but he was like, Faiza, it's your father's spirit, don't be a sharmuta. And then as I'm sitting there, the thought dawns on me, which should have dawned on me much earlier. And that is, why didn't you tell him to get separate rooms? I mean, if you were going to do this, why not at least tell him? He said about separate rooms. Why didn't you tell him separate rooms? But it all happened so fast. Everything with Pan was always fast. This, next. So you never really had a moment to even process and think until it was already late. So a few minutes later, there's a knock on the door. And of course, my heart drops. I'm like, oh my God, what is he here for? What's he doing right now? And he asked if he can come in for a second to show me a video on YouTube. And so I open the doors and I'm standing there and he's like, what are you doing standing? Like, come over here, let's lay down and just check it out. I'm not going to do anything. So he comes over, he lays on the bed. I sat on the corner and he kept making jokes about that. Like, oh, okay, can you even see the phone? Can you even see what we're watching? I'm like, yeah. And we were watching video after video after video. And after each one, he's getting more and more comfortable and even getting under the blankets, getting his, back against the headboard and just laying there. And as he got more comfortable and as it started feeling more safe, I did the same. I went from sitting at the corner of the bed to going to the middle, and then from the middle next to him. And then I put a pillow next to both of us and we laid side by side. But again, there was a pillow dividing us here. And so as this pillow's here and we're watching the videos like that. So then he clicks another video and it was taking a lot longer to load. So we're both sitting there waiting for it to load. And then he turns to me and says, I hope this doesn't scare you, but I really like you. And just like that, I gave him my V card. Afterwards, he gets up from the bed and was getting like a glass of water or something. And as he's making his way back to the bed, he asks me to scoot over. He's like, scoot. So I like covered myself and I start like scooting over a little bit. And he's like, no, more, scoot, go. He kept doing that. And at this point, I moved completely over from the side I was just laying on. And that's when he looks down and he laughs and he says, I thought you said you were a virgin. I looked down where he was looking and I saw that there was like tiny little spots of blood. There was like nothing there. Nothing like how they had always told us that you have to bleed. There has to be like a sort of hemorrhage there. There was nothing like that. And at this time, I didn't know not all women bleed. This is not a mandatory experience for every woman to verify whether or not she's a virgin. And I didn't know that at that time. So at this point, I'm like Pan. I'm thinking, yeah, why isn't there all this blood there? And so I didn't really know how to explain that. So I just told him the truth. I said, well, I am, or at least I was. And then he tells me to halif, like to swear to God that I was a virgin. And of course I swore. I'm like, yes, wallah, like wahiyat rabbi, I swear to God, I swear on the Quran, I swear on my religion, all this, that I was a virgin. Let me tell you guys something. I don't know if I ever imagined what it would be like to share myself with a man for the first time. I don't know if I ever sat down and envisioned like how it would happen and what it would be like. But it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. Pan took a moment that was supposed to be so beautiful, so appreciated, so valued, and turned it into a degrading trial and made it into something that made me feel like an absolute sharmuta, like a whore. I hated myself. I hated myself for it, but I hated him even more for making me hate myself. Here I was choosing to share myself with somebody, and that would be the memory that I would have to carry. I wouldn't wish that experience on any woman, ever. Pan insisted that we get some rest and that we would talk about it again in the morning, which just, I was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Why are we talking about this? And so he's like, let's get some rest. You know, it's very late. And he fell asleep right away. I didn't sleep for a while. I just laid there staring out at the window, feeling disgusted with myself, feeling so much guilt, feeling like God was punishing me, like I had done something I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing, and this was God's way of saying, well, this is what you get because of that. You played with fire, now you're burned. Horrible experience for a woman to feel that after 28 years of saving herself. After any years of saving yourself. It's a horrible thing to experience, because a moment like that should be celebrated, should be appreciated, valued, protected. I didn't have that experience. Somewhere between those thoughts, I fell asleep. And the next morning I got up and Pan wasn't there. Left a note saying that he got called out to a meeting and that for me to go ahead and order breakfast, room service, and that he would be back later that morning. I didn't have an appetite. Also, I'm not a breakfast person, so didn't have any interest in getting room service. I actually just showered with all my guilt and the shame and regret, and then sat there in the room waiting for him to come back. As I'm waiting, looking out of the skyline, Pan calls, asking me if I got room service, how I'm feeling that morning. And when I told him I hadn't gotten breakfast because I just wasn't hungry and I don't really eat breakfast, he's like, well, I'll come back to the hotel, and when I come back, we'll get breakfast. And he says, can I ask you a question before I get there? And I want you to be honest with me. And again, all I'm thinking is, here we go. Here we go. The conversation about virginity. And he asked me again why I didn't bleed. And he's like, just be honest with me. Like, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to judge you or anything. Just be honest. If there was somebody else, just tell me. And there I am again, proving my innocence. No, there was never anybody else. I promise you, just you. I don't know why I didn't bleed. I don't know why. I can't explain this. I can't explain that. Proving myself to him, proving my morality, proving to him that he was not laying with a whore. Okay, that was his thing. He did not want to be laying with a sharmuta. So no, you were not laying with a whore. You were laying with a decent woman. Kept going on, and at one point I said, you're making me regret this. You're making me regret this decision to share this with you because of the way that you're acting. And Pan goes, no, that's not what I'm meaning to do. Listen, just let's let it go. Forget it. I won't talk about it anymore. I'm coming back to the hotel. Get ready so we can go to breakfast. And I said, I'm really not a breakfast person, like I said. So, if you want to have breakfast, that's fine. But I really wanted to go home. All right, guys. So I'm like, if you just want to take me home, I really just kind of want to get home. I'm not feeling very well. I was coming up with this whole excuse so that I could just get home. And he goes, no, we'll go for breakfast. You'll enjoy it. I promise. A little while later, Pan shows up in the suite and we both head down to breakfast. Again, I'm not a breakfast person, so I just got a coffee. He made an order. His order comes. Starts eating, goes right back into the conversation saying, I don't understand, it doesn't make any sense. Like, every other girl bleeds. Why wouldn't you bleed? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're hiding something, just tell me. And I'm going again, on and on. I'm telling you the truth. No, this, going on and on and on. It wasn't breakfast. It was a trial. Truly. There was just no jury. It was just us. And he's trying to comfort me in between all this, being like, I just want you to know you could trust me. I just don't want you to ever feel like you can't trust me. Like, you could trust me. Be honest. And then he says something to me that would change the course of this entire relationship. He says, you could be honest with me, okay? You don't have to lie to me. It's not like I'm going to go off and tell all the guys and everybody in the community that you're not a virgin, even though I could. I could do that. I could be like all the other guys who do that to girls, but I wouldn't do that. So you could just tell me the truth. Just be honest. I get so angry at myself for sitting there. I froze. It didn't feel like just something said. It was like a threat. I didn't even think that he could or that he would do something like that. I mean, that would be he would completely destroy my reputation by sharing something so incredibly private
Oh, it instilled a fear in me. Reputation's everything. And mine was now in the hands of a monster.
And of course I said, I am. Please stop talking about this. I am. You're making me regret it. And he's like, all right, fine, fine, fine. We're done. We're done. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Then a silence just filled the table. You know, he didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. And I mean, the restaurant was bustling. There was clanking of glasses and people talking, and it was loud, but at that table, there was just silence. I was so ashamed of myself. I hated myself. I hated myself. I can't say that enough. I hated myself at that moment. I thought, look at your better judgment. Look at this. It's not like I ever wanted to be perceived as the perfect Muslim good girl, you know, but I wanted to be loved and valued and appreciated and respected. It wasn't there. It didn't exist. Not at that table. I watched him as he continued eating his breakfast, and I'm looking from him at everybody else in the restaurant who seemed so alive, so alive. And there I was, sitting completely dead inside.